What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with the guests and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Bobby Sheehan.
What's up, man? Oh, my God. I feel so welcome.
What's up, dude?
I feel like a part of your family.
You are, man. You're
Dude,
part of the
I got my
Buddy
shoes
family.
off. Everybody can see my little tiny feet.
Your little tiny feetsies?
Yeah,
I tried to
dude.
cut it off because I forgot to put socks on, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's totally fine. And you
Try to cut it off at the waist.
I'm sure everyone says this, but your home is so beautiful and
Thank you.
comfortable. And you live in Astoria, which is technically New York City, but I didn't see one homeless person as I was walking over there.
Yeah, someone asked me yesterday because I moved from the Upper East Side and they still live on the Upper East Side. And they're like, how are you liking the story? And I'm like, dude, love it because it's close enough. I'm just almost as far from the Stand and the Cellar and all those places as I was on the Upper East Side because I just jump on one train and it's a straight shot. But I'm far enough away to where I'm not getting accosted every like 3 blocks for something.
Dude, I live in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and
Shout out.
they say Bushwick is gentrified, but let me tell you, folks, it is not done yet. You know, usually about once a week on a walk home, I have like a weird thing that happened to me.
Yeah. Today,
can we say the day that we're recording?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
It is New Year's Day.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
And because I am also a sober Samuel, I woke up at 6 a.m.
Wow.
And got a cup of coffee. And as I was walking to the bodega to get, I had a change in my routine.
Yeah.
Right. Because I spent New Year's Eve with my girlfriend. We stayed up until exactly midnight and then went to sleep. The beautiful thing. We almost didn't even make it that far.
I feel you. I got home from work at 11:30 and my girlfriend had a couple of people over. And I was like, by 12:05, I was like, all right, let's wrap it up.
Dude,
Time for bed.
It was a great New Year's Eve. It was me, her, and I'm a stepfather to a dog.
Okay.
I'm not a stepdad. I'm the dad that stepped up. And her name is Maggie. I know she's probably listening right now or watching.
Maggie, shout out to Maggie.
She hasn't quite because I have a podcast too, of which you will be.
Oh,
a guest, of course.
yeah. Plug everything. I'm sorry.
Folks, you're watching networking in real time.
This is happening.
Yeah,
Plug
dude.
everything up front before we get too far into Maggie's story.
Yes. So, I mean, Maggie's a dog, and but yes.
But you're the father that stepped up for
I'm
this
the father
dog.
that stepped up, dude. So if Maggie was here right now after she stopped like barking and jumping on everything, she would want me to plug the 4 Hours podcast. It's an internet radio phenomenon hosted by an occasional morning person who I ask the most interesting people I know about sleep routine, life, love, stress, and setbacks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude,
And it's
I have
called-
annoying routine.
One more time. You went really fast.
Yeah, dude. That's why I liked your intro. I was like, oh yeah, you're like basically my brother. I hate to quote Step Brothers because that's such a millennial thing to do.
I do have a mangina.
We just, me too, dude. If I tuck it back, especially with my little red pubic
Whenever, because I work at a swanky steakhouse, sometimes I'll have guests and they'll go, "Oh, Brennan, like Step Brothers," and just instinct, I go, "Yes," and I have a mangina, and then a lot of times I have to look around and be like, "Not the place." Read the room.
Yeah,
Read the
grandma's
room.
looking at you like, what? And you try to ignore the numbers tattooed on her forearm, But what was it
The
called?
podcast.
The Before Hours podcast.
Before
yes.
Hours podcast.
And I
I like
referenced,
that. Yeah.
It's because I'm a morning person, and I think that has hurt my comedy career tremendously. That and not being any exciting identities. But I, although guy that looks like whatever I look like.
Title's so bad, exciting identities.
But yeah, man, it's like this. We shoot the shit. We talk about life, love, stress, and setbacks. Which is a lyric from an Atmosphere song.
Okay, very good.
Steal it from my intro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you guys, thank you so much. If you're impressed by the 3 minutes of me talking so far, please follow me on Bobby Sheehan LOL on Instagram. Don't spend too much time on Instagram. It's bad for your brain, but you should follow me before you stop.
Absolutely. Got to watch out for that brain rot.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. You don't drink anymore, as we were discussing before the mics went on. But before we get to that journey, as it were, where are you originally from? Because you're not from New York, I'd assume.
I am not from New York. I am from upstate New York in the Hudson Valley.
Okay.
Right.
That's
in
where we get our
a
foie gras
small
from.
town called, what's that?
That's where we get our foie gras from at work.
Oh,
Hudson
Sacre
Valley.
Bleu. Yeah, so it's a place.
That's all I know about it, honestly.
Dude, really, Orange County is known for two things. One, not being Orange County, California.
Yeah.
Right? It's Orange County, New York. And two, the Orange County Choppers are from there.
Oh,
which
okay,
is a
yeah.
show almost nobody watches, but there's it's very memeable. There's a few memes that use the guys.
I remember that show was really big when I was in middle school and high school. I used to watch that show.
Yeah. The one guy, R.I.P. in peace, he did die from opiates, which is a very Orange County, New York way to die. It really is.
It's the Northeast, man. I've been one detox or two detoxes and one rehab. And everyone I met, not everyone, but the majority, only a Sith deals in absolutes, but the majority of people that I met that were heroin were from the Northeast. It's a real Northeast kind of thing, man.
It's cold.
Yeah. It's not a lot to do.
I've never done heroin, but I imagine it's really...
You shouldn't.
Dude, especially with my addictive personality.
Yeah, it's not.
This fucked me up. I learned that there are people that have they're so oriented in the other direction of an addictive personality where they'll do heroin, decide it was nice, and never do it again.
Yeah, no, I've heard of that. It's like people... It's interesting because we know some of those people that we've met at mics and stuff. Like they show up to try comedy, they do it one time, and they're like, yeah, it was all right. It was fun. I had a good time. And we're like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it so addicting? And they're like, nah.
Could take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm all right.
I think the
fuck's wrong with you?
happiest person in the world is I'm convinced, is a middle-aged black man that lived life, right? And he has family, right? And he's confident. And he did an open mic once, and he did the best of anyone that night, and then went back to his family and never did comedy again.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I know at least 3 guys like that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
And
they're all Deshaun. To me, that's who they. I mean, they probably have other names, but that's how I think of them.
they're all Deshaun.
Yeah.
We have a guy at work. I love this dude. His name is Dante, and it's so funny though because of the atmosphere of work. When he puts on his the suit jacket or whatever, I go, dude, you're David.
Yeah.
And then because his voice he does the whole thing.
Customer service voice.
Yeah, and then we go downstairs and he'll put his do-rag on and put his jacket back on. He's like, all right, bro, see you later. I'm like, there's Dante. He's back, baby.
Oh, you just reminded me the do-rag because I got my coffee this morning from the bodega, and there were 3 French guys. This is 6:15 maybe, and they're fully I mean, I don't think they're from here. I think they're on vacation because they're fully French. They're speaking English, but with their throat.
Yeah,
fresh off the boat French, and they're They're not falling down, but they are New Year's Eve drunk still, right? They're still partying from the night before. And they're all laughing. I'm trying to figure out why. Obviously, I don't speak French, right? Because I don't have to. Thank you, Grandpa, for defeating the Nazis. But
my grandfather made sure of that.
Yeah, dude. That actually didn't even fully make sense because that implies that we beat the
French beat the Germans in the Blitzkrieg, which they did not do.
They did. They
gave up.
didn't. Dude,
just let them walk into Paris.
And that's depressing, but we did get a Ramones song out of it.
That is true. And that's where the term blitz in football comes from.
Oh.
Yeah, blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war. You know where I learned that?
Where?
Burn Notice.
What's Burn Notice?
It's a television show on USA Network about a burned spy.
Are they sponsoring the podcast?
They might as well. I'm obsessed with that show. But he always throws in these little antecedents and stuff. So it's funny with how much I've studied history and how much I still read about history. And then I'll throw in like a line from Bird Notice, and people are like I'll be like, yeah, Blitzkrieg, Lightning War. And people are like, wow, that's fascinating. I'm like, yeah, it's from a TV show, but you know, it's all the same. So bodega, French guys.
3 French guys. They're drunk. They're laughing. I figured out why. This bodega sold do-rags, and they each brought a do-rag, and they put it on.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not appropriate.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm like, dude, good luck. I mean, it is 6 a.m., so
Yeah.
You're
probably fine.
probably fine. I don't want to say that anybody that would be offended by that is sleeping at 6 a.m.
No,
Someone
but-
else might say that. But
not us. We
but
won't
not
say that.
No,
No.
we're good. We're good guys. I'm a good person. But dude, these 3 French guys. But it's so funny to me because I'm like, they are white, but they're in France, which outside of Paris is there's no non-white people, right?
Yeah.
So they might have missed the memo of the my culture is not your costume thing.
Yeah.
They literally don't know, and I couldn't explain to them. They were too drunk.
Well, and it's also interesting too because it's like, I don't know if it's what's been happening the last, few years or however you want to say it, but like I would never go to Africa and be like, let me rock a dashiki.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's a cult because in America, like a lot more people have been, their eyes have been open to how offensive that can be.
Right.
Or if it's just like, hey man, isn't this hilarious? Like I just don't understand it.
What I will say is that some of those pictures where you see like, Becky and she wearing a dashiki.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm sure the backstory is that they thought it would be cool if she
Yeah,
did one.
that's-
I think you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You have to, yeah, because
It'd be super cool. Blackface.
that would be
It's for the costume, Bobby.
for the costume. There's some Scandinavian countries. I forget which one because of me being American. I can't tell white people apart either.
Yeah.
Okay. But they do a thing. Multiple Scandinavian countries do this thing where they, instead of having Santa Claus, they have guy in blackface. I do not understand it either.
Really?
It's just, because there's so few black people there,
Yeah.
that there was nobody to be like, hey, this isn't good. They
yeah.
also don't have the history of blackface that America has.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
What a crazy thing to get into within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, because I read my co-host from my sports podcast turned me on to this book called Black AF History, which is the American history but told from the eyes of black people. And it's fascinating to read because you read all the same stories and like historical accounts that I and you would have read in college, but we read it from the side of the victors. So then when you read, or like the people in power, I don't want to say victors, but the people who are writing the histories.
Right.
And so when you read it from the other side, it's fascinating because you're like, yeah, this is fucked up, man. Like we already thought it was fucked up, but to read the actual accounts, you're like, holy God, man. So in Scandinavia, they're like, yeah, that's on you guys.
Yeah.
Like we didn't fucking do that.
We have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we didn't fucking load up people in boats and bring them over. Like, fuck you.
I mean, their ancestors did, but now
Yeah,
they're us.
for sure. 100%.
So,
Yeah, now they're where we live.
one time, this was actually less than a year ago, I went to Appomattox Courthouse.
Oh, really?
Right? For those that don't know, that's when that's
It's where they
Lee,
fucking surrendered,
That's-
motherfucker.
That's when the Union boys were finally victorious.
Yep.
Right. So the American Civil War ends at the Appomattox Courthouse. It's kind of confusing because Appomattox Courthouse is the name of the town. It's not an actual courthouse.
Yeah.
It was so tiny that they were like, "This is the town where the courthouse is."
And that's the name of the town.
So they surrendered, right? And I was like, I want to go there.
November 11th, I want to say.
April.
It was April?
April something. You know why you think November? Because November is technically when the Civil War ended.
Okay.
But how do I put this? In actuality, it ended in April when
Okay.
Lee surrendered, right?
Yeah.
But there were like skirmishes going on in your neck of the woods, actually. Yeah, and dude, Florida was like, we still want to fight. Florida and Texas.
Well, and it's interesting too because back then there was no like technology.
Yeah.
Like, if the war ended, it would take at least, you have to get a messenger to like go around and tell people they die. Then all of a sudden nobody knows.
And the last battle, the official last battle in November, Confederate victory.
Really?
Isn't that fun?
I mean, the Union won. Everyone knows that. The South in the beginning, fucking
They were dominating.
dude.
And it was weird. It wasn't supposed to be happening.
That's why they were people used to like picnic to watch the battles from the north because they'd be like, oh, we're gonna roll them, and the south was like, you got another thing coming, bro. Like they were charged up.
They were ready. Well, from their perspective, from their very flawed perspective, they were like, we are defending our homes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, at first, the Union was like, we are preserving the... Wait, I don't even know how to read. What does preserve mean?
Yeah, there's a good book that I read in college called Free Soil, Free Labor, Free Men, Eric Foner. And that's just letters from Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers. And when you read that, you realize why the Confederate was like busting their ass in the beginning, because they were fighting for something they truly were like, you know, this is my way of life and you're trying to take it. So like they were fighting for a cause, as twisted as it is. In their head, they were like, no, like we're fighting for a reason.
The fucked up thing is that usually the worse ideology is more galvanizing.
Yeah, 100%.
Like we had in Afghanistan, we had jihadists. And then we had a bunch of other guys that were like, wait, sorry, we're a nation state? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And they were like, can we smoke opium instead? Meanwhile, the jihadists were like, dude, I'm fucking ready to go.
Yeah. And you saw, I mean, we see it in World War II when the Germans first started their campaign in Europe. They were just dusting people.
Yeah.
Because they were fighting for something that, and for those of you listening, the reason why Bobby came on the podcast was I was at Mike and someone was like, dude, we were talking about history and politics and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's what I went to school for. And they go, do you know Bobby? You have to have him on the podcast. This dude is all history all the time.
Yeah, I put feelers out throughout the community, pay them about $10 an hour. Just to at various points to go, do you know Bobby Sheehan? And
so we are gonna get sidetracked with this stuff probably on occasion. But
so I was at Appomattox Courthouse, right? And you reminded me because you were talking about history from the black perspective, right? And they have what's called, I forget the exact name of it, but it's basically like an actor like talks to you as if they're from that time, right? And they prep you for it. They're like
reenactments.
He doesn't know. It was just one guy. They were like, he doesn't know about cell phones. He doesn't know about email. So keep that in mind. He's going to talk to you, but he's from the time period of the American Civil War. I'm like, okay, interesting. And they're like, he is a former slave. And I was like, this actor better be black. And he was, thank goodness. Right? So, and he did a great job, dude. He was so good. You really felt like he was a slave, right? And not because he wasn't bringing DoorDash orders like a slave back then.
Yeah.
Right? And, but there were parts of it that made me feel so weird because he was doing like an accurate depiction. I'm not going to do the voice because I know people can clip podcasts. I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
We're going to clip this podcast.
Do not clip this part. But in a stereotypical voice, he goes like, and where are you all from? And for example, I went to New York City and he went, not doing the voice. Oh Lord, it's even weirder if I do it in my voice. He was so like animated, right, in a way that I was like, I know this isn't blackface, but it feels close.
Yeah, because he's like really playing it up,
dude. And at one point, so he had this emotional arc because his wife died, right? But then he was free for the first time, and he got to experience freedom. And he's a very religious man, right? And because he's experiencing freedom and he's elated by being free, and he loves Jesus, he is gonna sing a happy Christian song. And when he sings, he loves to dance. And then he made all of the people on the deck of this house where he was doing the presentation all white people, and I was the youngest one by at least 20 years.
Wow.
So it's mostly old white people. He made us sing and dance and clap our hands. And I was like, that's what he gets out of this.
Yeah.
He loves
1,000%.
Dude. It's
that's like Gillis has that bit in Beautiful Dogs, his special on Netflix, where he talks about going to Washington's house, Mount Vernon, and he was like, same thing, like there's reenactors and stuff, and he was just like, I don't know how I feel about this is weird, man.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about it. You moved to New York from upstate, you moved to the city from upstate.
Yes. How
did you get into comedy? How did you find stand-up?
Well, the modeling career didn't work out.
All seriousness? Is that what you came here for?
In all not seriousness. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate it.
I mean, you're a fucking stout guy. You're built. You look like if you took your shirt off, people would be like, all right, I see what you're doing.
If I took my shirt off, you'd be blinded by the paleness.
Yeah, that's true. We got the lights going, but...
Yeah. Plus, I have all these I have so many body idiosyncrasies. I mean, we talked about this off mic. I have a new desk that I'm apparently allergic to, so my elbows
breaking out?
look like I'm going to use an old expression, a whore's knees, right? So I've been leaning on my new desk, and then I wake up with bruises.
Really?
I thank God I'm a man for many reasons, but mostly it's because
That's what we like to hear.
I wake up with bruises. If I was
Yeah.
a woman, people would be like, "Is everything okay at home?
Are you all right?
But I just wake up with.
You think your girlfriend's just punching you in your sleep?
She might, dude. I wouldn't blame her. The amount of times I talk to her about the American Civil War, and she's not as receptive as you are. Actually, she's very nice. We have a good equilibrium because I talk a lot about history, but she talks a lot about RuPaul's Drag Race.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
There you go, yeah.
Some commonalities, too. Like, I like the American Revolution. RuPaul's Drag Race, they're both wearing wigs. They're both wearing high heels.
Here we go.
You know what I mean? They're both being sassy, and there's drama.
I'm reading on the train now. I always read on the train, or not always, but a lot. I'm reading Anthony Zinn's A History of America.
Oh.
And it's 700 pages, and it's dense. Like, it's not like a book where it's like, oh, new paragraph, like, it's like top to bottom, small text. And I'm on page like 100 now, but it's so fascinating to your point where you're like, I'm in the point now where they're talking about the newer colonies. This is before the revolution even, but about how you could tell they were wealthy because they wore the periwigs and they wore the petticoats and all this kind of stuff. So to your point, you're very much like, gay?
Yeah.
So gay.
It's fun in history too. I feel like because what's considered to be gay or not, or masculine or not, like changes so frequently. Like I think that's why a lot of people latch on to the Lincoln was gay theory.
Yeah.
I really don't think he was. I think people just read the letters that he wrote to his male friend and they're like, well, this sounds romantic. But people forget like the way we talk to each other has like changed, you know?
100%. Well, and it's also interesting because like some of the stuff I've gone through in my life with like the almost dying and the jail and the incarcerations and all that kind of stuff, like I'm a lot more open. A lot of people go through that stuff and they become like more hardened. Like
Right.
I don't like fuck that part. Like that's like, but I become a lot more open. So like if I have friends in my life, like I have friends in my life that I would happily take a bullet for. And when I see them, I'm like, dude, I love you so much. Like, but I have a buddy of mine who's an older comic and he's like one of my closest friends. But when I'm like, dude, I love you, man. He's
Yeah.
like, cool.
Let's just be friends.
Yeah, he's like, cool. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's like 20 years older than me. That's weird for him.
I think I'm somewhere in between where I'll always give my friend a hug, but I'll always do the masculine hard pat on the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this hug is heterosexual. Make no mistake.
So let's talk about how did you find stand-up? Because it is a niche thing. And people, I say this every episode, but we're in it. So to us, it's like our world. But for most people, it's like, yeah, I've been to the cellar like one time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I go like 3 times a week to the Olive Tree just to be around it.
Yeah.
So how did you even find stand-up?
Yeah, I mean, I love stand-up. I think it was the first, I mean, like, besides cartoons,
Yeah.
it was, like, the first thing that I liked. I like music, too, but I think I found stand-up first.
Okay.
And Comedy Central was big. So I was born in 1990.
Okay.
So late 90s, early aughts, Comedy Central was its heyday.
I say it all the time. I was born in 88, and I used to record Comedy Central Presents when I was starting at 12 years old. I would record Comedy Central Presents on VHS and just watch them over and over and over.
I want to give a shout-out to Kevin James. I know most people know him from Paul Blart. What
Paul
a fucking
Blart.
hard thing to say. You say it for me.
Paul Blart, Mall Cop.
I have such fucking mush mouth, dude. I would never
I
be able to
literally,
say that.
when you tried to say it, I almost jumped in to correct
Yeah.
you. You heard it for a split second, and I was
Yeah.
like, wait, that is hard to say.
Dude, but a lot of people know him as, and I mean, King of Queens, and he was
Yeah.
great, but like, he's not known for being a prolific stand-up. His first special,
It's so good.
dude, Sweat the Small Stuff. Oh, the physical comedy.
Yeah.
He's one of those
We
guys.
talked about riding on the jet ski and falling off, and he's like,
Yeah.
you're just in the water?
The thing I think about a lot, because I was a fat little kid, and I remember when he had this bit about when you're fat, you don't need a reason to sweat. And my skinny friends cannot grasp this. They'll walk in and go, "Why are you sweating? What were you, jumping rope in the attic?" And I go, "No, I was peeling orange about an hour ago. Why?" And I remember having,
forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's so good.
I remember having like an adult. You know, you would laugh about like like cartoons.
Yeah.
You know, Tom beats Jerry and you would laugh.
Yeah, and
But
then
you
like
have
the
an
physical
adult
comedy
laughter.
and stuff you'd laugh at, but like when you have like an adult, like, oh my God, I can relate to that kind of a thing.
That bit stands out in my mind. And also I watched a commercial for Rush Hour.
Okay.
And Jackie Chan said, "Can't you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?" To which Chris Tucker responded, "Ain't no one understand the words that come out of your mouth." And I was like, that is the peak of comedy.
That's
you know what
it.
I mean? Which, by the way, is sort of shitty writing, because if you and I had a misunderstanding, I would go, "Are you deaf?" Maybe, you know, I wouldn't go, "Don't you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?"
Yeah. Well, and also there's no misdirect. Like it's a very like I see it coming joke.
Right.
Like now,
Which is good for an 11-year-old.
yeah, that's true. And now it's funny because like at shows and stuff, we'll see like New York is such a big place with so many comics. I've been on shows and like I'm at Mike's all the time. I go to shows all the time. Like I work at the restaurant and every single night I get off work, I go to a club just to see what's going on. So like I'm around it all the time. And I say that to say I've been on lineups before where I'm like, I don't recognize a single person here.
Yeah.
But I've been on those shows and you sit in the back of the room and it's interesting you say that for an 11-year-old because it's for a big swath of the population. I'll be sitting in the back of the room and I'll hear the setup and I can tell you what the punchline's going to be because you're like, unless they, and if I get it wrong, I'm like, that was a great misdirect.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're like, this is what's coming. And
You're
the
like,
audience,
"Oh, I do imagine that men don't have top sheets or whatever." You could like kind of anticipate
but
it.
then the crowd like, bah!
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, guys, you saw it coming. That's very much what that writing is, where it's like, oh, the black guy's coming in at the Asian guy. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we got it. That's not really creative at all.
But I used to watch.
But for you, you were like, I'm going to do that.
Dude, when I saw that Chris Tucker could make fun of Asians, I thought, why can't I?
Here we go.
Yeah, you think he was on Epstein's Island, but I think he was there for the zip line. I don't think he was doing anything with the
Yeah,
kids.
he was there for the party, not for the party.
Dude, I'm very I have some empathy towards the people that ended up on the Epstein list that maybe didn't fuck the kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I could see myself with my luck, dude. I can imagine being like,
Hey, Bobby, you want to come to this party? It's
yeah.
on an island.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take a picture with Prince Andrew. Let's do it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and then
Just sitting there talking to him about the monarchy.
dude, and how it's an inferior system. Hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take. I don't like the monarchy.
So you saw that stuff. When did you start doing stand-up?
Oh, I started at the ripe age of 25.
Okay.
Which was too late.
Yeah.
It's over for me.
I started at 22, but then drugs and alcohol got in the way. I didn't get back into it till 30. Same thing. I'm like, oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
I'm
22 to 30 is when I was supposed to be doing all the shit I'm doing right now.
I'm getting the jaw implant, I decided. I'm getting the jaw implant. I'm going to talk with a black scent. I know earlier I said I wasn't going to, but that seems to really be working.
You're going to do that?
And then rage bait. Because, okay, a lot of people get into comedy because they're like, I want to make people feel good. I want people to laugh. But me, I want people to argue in the comments.
That's
you know what I mean?
a big
and
thing.
And I want to espouse Russian disinformation.
Okay, there you go.
Those are the two big things right now in comedy, and I'm going to try to capitalize.
It is interesting. The clip that I have, I did a friend's podcast, and she was asking me about jail, and I said and then she clipped this, which was great because in the clip I say, I'm a naturally anxious person, but when you are incarcerated, once the doors close, that's the least anxiety I had because I realized there's nothing I can do about it. Bills, rent, all that stuff. There's literally nothing I can do. So I was almost less anxious being incarcerated than not.
Okay.
And she clipped that and put it up. Dude, it was so... People were so rage-filled. It was so... Like, it got over 1 million views.
What were people mad about?
They were just like, you have no idea what jail's really like, blah, blah, blah.
But you were in jail.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It's like... And it was just people arguing. Like, some people agreed with me, and then people would argue with them, like, jail is supposed to be a punishment, not a vacation and stuff. And it's like, I'm not saying it was a vacation. I'm saying from a mental stability standpoint.
Right.
But, dude, and... I didn't realize, like, it got so many views, and I was so excited that so many people were seeing it. And then I realized it got so many views because people were, like, arguing or, like, just so shitty about it. And I was like, oh, that's what it takes to get... Like, I put up a clip of, like, a bit that I think is funny and relatable, and it gets, like, a few thousand views, maybe.
Yep.
And then I put up a clip about being like, jail's not that hard, and people are like, da 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 da.
It's funny because it's it's not even what you were saying. And I imagine there were two types of people. There were people that decided what the clip was within the first few seconds.
Yeah.
And then maybe didn't even watch the full thing and started commenting. Or people realized it was more nuanced than what they thought it was going to be, but they were like, I'm already angry.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Breathe? Can't do that. I got to argue with people on
What
the
am I
internet.
supposed
And then you
to
look at their
laugh?
profile picture and it's just like, they don't even have their own picture. It's like their favorite sports team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
they have
I
like
had-
3 followers.
I had someone comment on a clip from the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and this was on Instagram. Most of the shitty comments I get are on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
but someone on Instagram who has like no following who says he does comedy. Like in
Yeah.
his bio, it says comedian.
Love that.
And he lives in Chicago, and he has like literally like maybe 500 followers. Was like, thanks for wasting my time with this shitty podcast.
Love that,
And I
dude.
wanted to be like, dude, like
I
seriously?
don't know, 500 followers?
But like, and it's also like,
500 followers, by the way, is
there's
just-
unwritten rules.
Yeah.
You don't go after other comics for content.
Oh, yes, you do. I have noticed that.
That is a
Yikes,
big thing,
dude.
but it's normally. I mean, I can't speak to it because no one in real life has ever come after me, and I have a bit about it where I'm like, I'm from Florida. I've been arrested 8 times. Like, if someone in real life comes after me, like
Yeah.
another comic, I'm like, hey man, this is real life. Like, I will fuck your day up.
Yeah.
Like, be careful. But on the internet, you see it all the time. People go after comics, and it's normally the lesser comic going after the bigger comic. Like,
Yeah.
that's not funny. It's like, all right, man, it's not for you.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah. I mean, hey, man, you've missed a wonderful networking opportunity.
That's true.
That's what I say to my haters. Dude, you've been to jail, man. That's good.
Yeah, a lot.
I've never been to jail. I think I would do well because the first day I would just find the biggest guy and suck his dick. You know what I mean? Just make him come so good, dude. People talk about being the bitch like it's a bad thing, but I think if you were talking about anxiety, if you remove the when is it gonna
Yeah,
happen to me?
you make it happen.
You make it happen.
And
you
then
know?
you're just chilling.
And then if he doesn't want his dick sucked, then it's completely reversed, and now
The
you're
power
the alpha.
has shifted, and now you're the top dog.
The guy's like, please, I'm in here for tax evasion, and you're like,
Give me that dick.
I've already started. Oh,
Is that what you're
Yikes,
doing? You know,
dude.
that's you in the scenario.
yeah. I mean, DMX would hate that. That's a reference to his song "Where the Hood At," where the entire first verse is just "I don't like gay people."
Yeah, especially in jail.
Dude, and it was
With the Kool-Aid
2003, and
lipstick,
we
yeah.
were all vibing. We were like, hell yeah, DMX.
When it comes on when I'm in the gym sometimes, I'm still like,
Dude,
let's go.
I don't know if because I listen to Spotify, right? I have premium, not to brag. But
Hard flex.
I noticed because I listen to the uncensored versions because I'm kind of dangerous like that, and there is a part that they bleep out where he says, I forget the exact language, but it's referencing shooting gay people with a gun.
And they bleep it
And they
even on
bleep
the...
out the gun part because I'm sure Spotify was like has some sort of hate speech thing where they're
Yeah.
like, even though it's DMX who was a crazy person,
Yep.
we can't have him saying that on our platform.
They also do that with Eminem. He has an older song where he talks about something about in the White House because you know what, yeah. And they bleep out like maybe a second where he's talking about like shooting people in the White House.
Because I ain't said enough to pipe down. I'll pipe down when the gets wiped out.
Yeah.
White House is the
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
Till that, what he says, till I see that, I'm just quoting a rap song from the early odds. Till I see that little Cheney Dyke get sniped out.
Yeah, yep.
But they don't
bleep-
bleep out Dyke. They bleep out Cheney and Snipe.
Yeah, yeah, because it's interesting because again, I think it has to do with like the threat of violence
Yeah.
against a certain group. We gotta talk about it. When did you do your first open mic?
Oh, so I did my.
I'm gonna keep us on track if it kills me.
Thank you, man, because I'm terrible at being on track, dude. My first open mic, I did it in such a stupid way.
So you're 25. You loved comedy since you were a kid.
25, newly sober.
Newly so. How long have you been sober?
Let's see, I'm 34 now, so almost 9 years.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
thank you, man.
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
get
For my
7
10th
in May.
anniversary, I'm gonna relapse. You know.
Joe List posted he just got 12 years, and someone wrote like, "You should celebrate with a drink," and Joe just eviscerated this guy in the comments. He was like, "This is the first of at least 10 to 15 of this hacky joke. You guys are so not creative." Like it just, I was like, and because I know Joe, I was kind of like, that's harsh, dude. All right, let's go.
See, my thing is like any comment that wasn't, even if it's a little critical, like a lot of people, they like to hop on the "you look like a leprechaun" thing.
Yeah.
You look like Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm like, welcome. Thank you for paying attention.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I always hit them with the love my fans. Doesn't matter what they say. Love my fans.
Oh, that's great.
So they'll be
man.
like, and the crowd goes mild, and I go, love my fans.
That's actually, dude, when someone gets me good, I'm not even upset.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes I'm like, you got me.
I came up roasting, dude. I mean, that's some of my first spots were roast battles. So like I have in some ways such thick skin, in other ways very fragile thin skin. But yeah, a thing about me being short or having red hair, I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
You're like, come on, everybody, come on, get something good.
Yeah.
When did you? So you started at 25. When did you move to the city?
Same time. So it all happened very quickly. It's weird because I quit, and a lot of people. And I respect the program. I'm not part of the program. They say one day at a time. I woke up one day and thought never again.
Yeah.
So to me, drinking alcohol is like 9/11. It was fun, but it's over now. You know what I mean? But so I was 6 weeks sober, recently graduated from my paralegal program. Don't do it. Don't become one. It's very stressful and not fun. But I got a job in New York, and I got an apartment in Weehawken, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And had you done any stand-up up to this
no,
point?
this is what was so crazy about it. Now I look back at it now, I'm like, that was crazy.
That's insane.
Because I was, all these things were happening at once. And so I got the job in Central Jersey because I knew it was only an hour drive from Weehawken, which was only a half-hour bus to the East Village.
Okay. So you got the job in New Jersey. So then you moved closer to the city so you can go into the city to do spots.
Yes. Because like the job and my parents' house where I was living at the time was equidistant to my new apartment.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm getting the new apartment I didn't have the money to live even in Brooklyn, but I was like, I'm going to live so close to Manhattan. So I'm going to go to Manhattan every night and do one open mic.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah. So it was May 8th, 2016, a date that will live in infamy, right? And I went there, and
when you say it, it's funnier because I know what you're referencing.
Yeah. I can do the whole speech later if you want. But,
I can do the Gettysburg Address.
Yes.
That's the one I still got.
Yeah, dude.
Our forefathers brought forth on this continent
a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that pussy is beautiful. But
all men are created equal.
all pussy is created equal. You know what I'm saying?
That is not true.
No, it isn't. But shout out to the ladies, honestly.
Weehawken.
Honestly, ladies, shout out to ladies. But I did.
Shout out to any single ladies in here.
Hey, I'm not single, but my friends are.
Pander.
So I'll let you
baby.
know what friends are horny. Horny 30-year-olds in your area. That sounds more like a threat than a fun thing. But yeah, my first open mic, I had really managed expectations.
So, real quick, I want to, because we're going to get back to it, but you literally, all this happens, 25, you get sober, 6 weeks in, you get a job, you graduate from the paralegal program, and you're like, I'm going to do stand-up. But not like the rest of, a lot of us here, where we start in our like local scene, we move to a bigger city in that state.
Right.
Like, I started in South Florida and then eventually like really like got back into it in Jacksonville. And then once you become like decent enough in your own scene, you're like, now I'm going to go to the city. You were like, I'm going to the city to start stand up.
I am very brave. I think it's first responders, the military, and then me.
And then people who start stand up in New York. A psychopath.
It's also the closest city to where I was
That's
from.
true. Yeah. So I interrupted, but take us through it. So you're in Weehawken and you're like, all right, how long does it take from when you move to where you're like, all right, now we're going to start the routine?
It was, I can't remember if it was the night after my first day of employment, but it was definitely within the first week.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm like, it was almost like a compulsion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had decided the year before that I was going to do stand up, and then just everything came together at once. And the major factor was the stopping drinking. That was keeping me, it holds so many people back.
Yeah.
And if, quick PSA where I sound sanctimonious for longer than I'm comfortable. If you think I'm functional, with my problem drinking, dude, if you stop, you will be like exponentially more competent. You will exceed your wildest expectations.
It is
It's such a
insane.
time and energy and money sink to be addicted to something.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I'm very aware.
Don't do drugs, kids.
It's so crazy how my entire life revolved around like I got to get drunk.
And it becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And it's a bullshit, stupid identity.
It sucks, man. Like I used to get invited to parties in college because when all my friends graduated and had regular jobs, they like would invite coworkers over, and they knew if Brennan came, he would get everyone to loosen up because I would be doing shots with everybody.
Yeah.
So everyone, say there's 10 people. Those 10 people all did one shot, but I've done 10 because I did one with everybody. So now, I used to do a bit about it, but it wasn't very funny, so I stopped doing it. But it was like I was like the party starter, and then they would take me downstairs like a dog that you need to kennel or crate, and they would put me in their spare room downstairs and turn on the TV, put my handle of rum next to me, and walk out.
That's hilarious.
And I would pass out on the bed.
See, where I got, what fucked me up, I think, was, I mean, I got the gene, whatever it is. It's in my family, so I think a lot of it is biological. But for me, alcohol is a depressant, which means it's the opposite of a stimulant. A stimulant raises your heart rate. Depressant lowers your heart rate, right? But for me, having a couple beers I would actually feel my heart. Which is, I found out later, like after being sober for a long time, that's actually a pretty bad indicator that like you will not have a healthy relationship with alcohol, because it puts most people to sleep eventually. I never understood cocaine. I mean, I've done it before. It's fun, but I never needed cocaine. Yeah. Because I'm like, I'm ready. It's 4:00 in the morning. Let's still ready to party.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Yikes.
So, God, that's crazy because I have that same kind of reaction. I talk about it in my one-man show, but like after being sober for lengths of time, I would do a shot and I'd be like,
yeah, let's fucking go.
Like, I'm free.
Yeah.
So you said within that first week you started doing stand-up. And then when you did it the first time, how did it go?
Thank Christ it went well.
Did it? Do you remember the mic? You said May 6th.
May 8th.
May 8th.
Same as Victory Day.
Yeah.
I mean, the allies prevailing over the access is the same as me doing my first open mic, but it went well. It was at this place called Climate Lounge. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was a Polish bar in the East Village, and it was a basement. And the reason I found it was because I Googled open mics New York City, and it was like one of the first things that popped. And you could sign up ahead of time, which I think new people like, right? Because they're like, oh, I don't have to know somebody. And I read the rules.
And also it gives you accountability. Like I've already signed up for this. Now I have to go.
What am I going to waste $5?
Something given has no value.
And I feel very, if I could culturally appropriate for a second, I feel so blessed. Because I feel like that's only for black women to say. But I really feel blessed, dude, because I was like, it's going to suck. That's part of the process. Like I've listened to so many old Opie and Anthony, episodes of comedians talking about bombing where I'm like, well, that's part of it. And I'm ready, dude. And I've never really been afraid of public speaking. So I was like, it's not going to be that embarrassing. Who fucking cares? And I went up there and it was bad. Like I wasn't good at it, of course, but it
Had you been writing for that whole year?
No.
Okay.
No. I when I got the job and the apartment, I started writing a notebook.
Okay.
That previous year, I was like, I'll fucking figure it out. I'm fucking hilarious.
I'll just get up there and riff.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I wrote, and then obviously I did about half of what I wrote.
Yeah.
And
it went well.
That was funny. It went well in the fact that people weren't averting eye contact at the end,
which I've done before.
Yeah.
I've been at mics and been like, this is the longest 5 minutes, and I'm not even on stage.
That happened. You know what? That happened. It's funny because I went with such low expectations, and then I was better than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah.
Which, again, I feel blessed for because I see this happens mostly to good-looking men, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm beautiful in the sense that I'm one of God's children, but I feel like there's a certain type of guy that's like, dude, I say stuff chicks laugh all the time. And they don't realize it's just because of his cheekbones or whatever.
His
right?
jawline.
So he goes up there and he starts doing stuff, and then everyone's looking at him like, what? And he's like, oh, fuck, what's happening?
This is all inside jokes nobody gets.
Yeah. I'm quoting Step Brothers up here. Why are people not laughing?
Yeah.
So I had the opposite experience. I was like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then I had that a few more times, But then like the third or fourth time or whatever, I was like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. And it was probably because I lost some of that new guy energy, but didn't get a veteran level of writing. Yeah. So I was just like
stuck in that weird limbo.
Yeah, dude. I'm like
I'm comfortable on stage, but I'm not comfortable enough to where when stuff starts going wrong, I can get out of it.
Dude, and then I do the classic fucking. I always take the mic out of the stand, right, to show the audience who's boss. But like, I would have this thing when it wasn't going well, which is I would try to hold. I would try. I feel like this is.
I know exactly what's happening.
You would try to like do the. I'm fucking holding on to the mic stand. I'm fucking cool, but I would miss it.
Yep.
Right, and then I'd be like, well,
shit.
All right. Where are you guys from?
When did you get into roasting?
Pretty soon, dude. I did my first mic in May of 2016. Didn't get booked until Boxing Day that year, right? Which I think is just because I was one of the only people available.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone's out of town.
I was like, it's my first show. I'm like, asshole, it's December 26th.
Nobody's
there was,
here.
Like, 4 people there. Yikes.
Was that a regular stand-up show? Or
that was a regular
okay.
stand-up show, and then I did a few weeks later, that following January, so I haven't even been doing stand-up that long, but my buddy Matt Marin, we're
Shout
great
out, friend of the show.
He's a great friend, great comedian. Check out Comedy Fight Club. That's the show I did. It's a great show, and Matt is very generous in that if you have done open mics for a few weeks and you ask to do a show, he'll be like, yeah. That's fine. You won't be the main event, but you can be on the show.
He came on the pod because I don't do roasts. It's just I don't know. It's the way I'm wired. Like I don't like. I'll go to roasts and I'll laugh at the bits, but I don't like roasting. I'm not a good roasting comic. And I remember Matt came on the podcast. Matt's a great dude, a friend of mine, and he was like, "You got to do it." And I go, "I don't do roasts, man. Like I've done a couple in the past. I always bomb. It's always like either way too far or not far enough. Like it's hard to find that middle ground." I remember the best joke I ever wrote was when my buddy Dallas, I was like, when Dallas kills himself, the note's just going to say, sorry, it took so long. And that's like the best one I've ever written, the only one I've ever written. And that one got like boozed because people are like, suicide's not funny. And I was like, I don't know where the line is. So anyway, Matt was like, you're doing it. And I was like, fine. And I remember I bombed so bad. This was like 3 years ago. And I still bring it up all the time. And I bombed so bad and just got eviscerated. And it's because I didn't play into like the character of like I'm doing a roast.
Right.
Like I was all like, hey guys, what's going on? And then I tried to roast and it was disgusting. And I literally remember standing on stage being like, you are a former Division I football player. You've been arrested 8 times. Do not cry on this stage. Like literally, I remember in my head thinking, do not let them have that. I was like, you could fucking fuck everyone in this room up right now if you wanted to. Don't let them have this. And I remember one of the comics, one of the judges was like, I don't know your name and I'm obviously never going to need to learn it. And at the time I was like, I've had like big people in my pocket. Like, who the fuck are you? But I just remember after that, I went up to Matt and I go, I fucking told you I don't do this. So for you, you leaned into it. You liked it.
And I had one good joke though. I didn't do fantastic, but that's the thing about roast battles. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you know, you can't crowd work during a roast. You can't riff during a roast. You can't tell a story during a roast. They're jokes, right?
Yep. And if they bomb hard.
But
you're just laying out there.
I remember I had 5. I'm almost positive I remember this correctly. I had 5 jokes, and 4 of them goose egg, nothing, confused stares, and then 1 got the biggest reaction I had gotten up to that
all
point.
you needed.
Yeah, an applause break, and I was like, dude. And it's so funny the way you ever read like a Shakespeare play, and you're like, I would rather, you know, watch a Tarantino movie, right?
Yeah.
But then you're like,
I force myself to do that though. I don't know if you're like that, but it's like sometimes I'll be reading something and I'm like, I don't want to do it, but it's like
sometimes
you need
if
to
you
do
push
this.
through, you get it. But like I think art, like it increases exponentially, right? I just learned that word today, so I'm using it a lot. But like I remember, you know, growing up with great movies, right? And then reading Romeo and Juliet, and the twist is like, oh, isn't it tragic that they they died when it was basically a miscommunication.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not that good. But you have to put your mind into like someone that's living in the 1400s.
Well, and also I remember I cried the first time we read it in English class.
Ooh.
Because I think this ties into why I'm not good at roast is because I am a fucking softie. Like I have that because I'm bipolar, so I have the switches where like I'll cry at like an extra gum commercial where I'm like, the dad saved the things and the. So I can also go the other way with violence as well, but that's not a flex. I don't know why I said that.
I just hope I do good as a host,
but.
Or as a host, as a guest. Fuck, I'm fucking up already. He's gonna beat my ass, you guys.
I remember when the poison thing happened, and I was like, no, like, wait. I remember yelling in English class, like, wait. And my English teacher was like, see, everybody, Brennan gets it. So, like, I understand what you're saying, because sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, they just, like, if you waited 2 more minutes, they would have been fine. But I hear that, and I go the other way. I'm like, if he only would have waited, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's so much, because it's such a minute detail, that's why, and that's why I interrupt so much on the podcast, because I'm like, wait, tell me about the little details about it.
No, that
because
makes
I
for a
find
good
that
podcast,
fascinating.
man. Yeah. So the reason I compared myself to Shakespeare is
Billy S.
Well, it's also like, Socrates, it was the greatest mind of the time, but his whole thing was like, what if stuff was things or whatever?
Yeah.
Then it grew after that. Like, art's the same way. So the roast joke I told in early 2017, I think would bomb now in 2024. It's this. It was against Dan Wicks. And he has sort of a robot vibe, right? I can't explain it. Find his videos. He looks
Google
like a
Dan
robot.
Wicks.
And I said, Dan is somehow a pussy and a creep. You look like you've been friend zoned by children. Right? And I'm glad you liked it.
That's a good bit, dude.
I think it would have bombed, and I think it would bomb now. But in 2017, people loved it.
It crushed. And then were you, because I know you've known Matt for a long time, were you like one of the roast guys after that? Was that like your main go-to?
This is why, God bless Matt. I don't know why I say God bless all the time. I don't believe in God, but it just feels nice to say. Yeah. But I didn't know him at all, and he didn't know me at all, and I was so nervous, which is funny in hindsight. I was like, I heard you do a roast show. Can I do it? He was like, yeah. Are you free this date? It was in early January. Again, close to New Year's. Again, I think they were struggling to find. It's like my first spot on Boxing Day. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
like, I'll be around. And I will not be hungover.
And then we became good friends. We used to podcast together, dude. And now
Locker Room Talk. Was that you?
Locker Room Talk was me, Joe Gorman.
Yeah, friend of the show as well.
Friend of the show, May You Live Forever, and Matt Marin, right? The three of us. Then I left to do my own thing, right? I started Wings, right? I was in the Beatles, and then I started Wings.
Yeah.
Right? And then they did the Buff Boys, and then they split. But now it's Joe and Alex Tomaselli, and then Matt, I think, is doing some other non-podcasting stuff. So, you know what?
But you're in that like world.
I'm
like,
in the world.
So like, yeah.
I don't roast too much anymore.
Okay.
I get asked to do it, but my thing is like, I think I figured it out, and I didn't. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a great writing exercise.
It is a great writing exercise.
I don't know if
I'm gonna debate you on the fun part, but
I have so much fun doing it. I think that what other people have gotten out of it career-wise, I have not gotten out of it, and that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. It's to quote Jim Carrey or one of his characters. But
Bruce.
I'm not retired from roasting, but I am taking.
You've kind of moved on from it.
I'm trying to figure out how to get people to give me money.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's the. No one tells you about comedy, because at first, I mean, I spent. I fucked this up. Just do it. Oh man,
there you go.
As I'm talking about the industry, I can't even hold the microphone around. But dude, a lot of it is like, did people buy tickets?
Yeah.
Did people, you're becoming. And when I say you, I mean anybody like
the
moving,
royal you, yeah.
Yeah, the royal you, the Royal Rumble, huh? It's. I think I'm in this weird in between spot, because when you're just an open micer, right? And I am not above doing open mics.
Yeah, I do them all the time.
You got to do them until you don't have to do them. When I started, Mark Norman was still doing them.
Yeah, Jared Waters, very good friend of mine, friend of the show, been on a couple times. His nickname is Turbo because he's always out there. And I remember I asked him, I go, when did you stop doing open mics? He goes, brother, I did open mics until I didn't have time to do open mics anymore.
Yeah.
He goes, that's how it is. And I feel the same exact way. It's like, yeah, I get booked here and there. Like when my buddies go on tour, sometimes they bring me, but it's like, that's not enough. Like I'm an addict. Like I have to be, like I haven't been on stage since like the day after Christmas because work has been so busy and a lot of the mics weren't happening because of the holiday.
Right.
And I'm fucking going insane.
He's withdrawing, folks. He's
go-
jonesing for a laugh.
I'm losing my mind.
Message
not
him
being-
LOL right now. Maybe even the laughing emoji. Anything you could spare will help.
But to your point, like it's like there's that weird in between stage, which is like what you're talking about, where it's kind of like, well, I'm still gonna do mics, but also like I do have shows to do as well.
And it's this weird thing because I'm lucky enough that anybody would let me headline their stage, right? The clubs are flaky. And it's because they could afford to be because I'm very good at what I do, but no one knows who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to sell tickets. And the worst feeling in the world is, at this point for me, is not bombing. It's when barely anybody shows up.
Yeah, I had a show I did in Astoria, and Tracy, my girlfriend, who you met earlier, she
Shout out, Tracy.
she always tells all her friends about the shows and stuff. And Tracy's like the best part about like doing shows, because she always brings a bunch of her friends. The problem is you only get one or two of those.
Yeah.
Because by the third time, they're like, we've all seen Brennan like 3 or 4 times.
That's why a lot of comedians are polyamorous. You got a couple of girlfriends, they have friends. It's like a pyramid scheme, but with love.
But but I did the show at Grove 34 here in Astoria, and it was great. But then you look out in the audience, and I even made the joke where I was like, oh, this is sponsored by the Kaplan family, because her and her brother brought everybody. And that is a very sobering realization where you go, like, I paid money to like have the ad on Instagram. Like 10,000 people saw it. It was local. So 10,000 people who live in this area saw it, and it didn't move a single ticket. And you're like, I thought I was better than this. And then you get on stage and you perform and you go, oh, I am good at this. But at the same time, you're like, nobody knows. Nobody has any idea.
And a lot of people are good at stand-up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because we got a little bit of time left. We talked about some of the stories about you getting sober and everything like that. When did you start drinking?
Halloween, I was 16.
Okay.
I did it. That's a Bruce Springsteen song, huh? Halloween.
I was 16.
I was 16. It was but a dream. And somehow it's about Vietnam. But I wild turkey in the woods.
Okay. With a bunch of people?
With a bunch of people. And I blacked out the first time, which is a sign of alcoholism. Dude,
Yes, it is.
It really is. And I remember, so when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I used to read Bukowski, How Edgy, right? But there's a sign,
And everybody wants to be the fucking, what is it, doomed youth. Everyone wants to be like,
Dude, I remember reading about Bukowski. I was like, one day I'll be a loser. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Not realizing that I was currently one, you know? But there's a line if you don't know Bukowski, basically he was an alcoholic. And
drank himself to death in the Keys, if I'm not mistaken.
Dude, he definitely drank himself to death. But he had a semi-autobiographical book called Ham on Rye, and he talks about the first time he drank, and he talks about feeling intoxicated the first time, and the line is, I knew that this was going to be an important part of my life for a very long time. And when I read that passage, I had already been drinking, and I was like, holy shit, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I smoked weed when I was 14, 15, right? Because that was just the first available drug, right?
Yeah.
And then when I found alcohol, I'm like, this is like weed, but better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
1,000%. I grew up just with family stuff, and I talked about it before, where I was like, I'm not going to drink. Like, it's poison.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. It's terrible. And there's a bunch of people who I've had on the show who are sober currently, who have had the same experience where they grew up around it and they're like, this is toxic. Like, I'm not going to do it. And then the first time I did it and got drunk, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, my anxiety was gone. My depression gone. I was having a good time. Like, and I was a kid, like this doesn't come from nowhere. Like, I was a very troubled kid, and all of a sudden all that went away. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
And it's also doesn't hurt that it's the most socially acceptable drug too.
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
That's
like
the
when
thing.
you're a teenager, you're a loser if you're not drinking.
Yeah.
and you're like,
Sometimes
dude,
you're a loser if you are drinking.
yeah. So when did because you sent me a bunch of stories, so you're gonna have to come back on the show because we didn't get to a single one. When was the first drug? Was that the weed?
No.
Or did you mean your first hard drug?
I guess you would say hard drug. When I was like 13, I was like, I'm going to be a guy that does drugs. And then I looked to them for a long time.
How did this come up?
I felt like I was a person that was supposed to do them.
Okay.
And in a way I was right because boy, did I enjoy them. You know what I mean?
Boy, oh boy.
I mean, some of the stuff you were describing, right? I was like a weird little fat ginger,
Yeah.
you know, which were like,
I was a fat kid too, so that probably had a lot to do with it.
it's so
like-
many. I had, the way I look at it is I had so many punchlines in a row.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
fat, red
Short,
hair.
ginger,
Wasn't
yeah.
short at 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the size I am now at 13 is actually quite tall.
So you hit your growth spurt early.
Yeah,
But
dude.
then it was over.
Yikes.
I didn't hit mine until I was a senior in high school.
But I actually, the short thing never, but I didn't know I was short until I went on Tinder at like 23.
yeah.
That was like,
Yeah,
oh shit.
Because you're not short. I wouldn't look at you and go, oh, you're short.
I'm Hollywood short.
Yeah. You're like Tom Cruise is 5'3".
I'm basically Tom Cruise. That's
Yeah.
a way to look at
That's what
it.
we
In
talked
that
about.
I keep my wife prisoner. That's not the story. I know that's not it. But Miscavige or whatever. Scientology is a cult. It needs to be destroyed. But that's not what you asked me. You asked me what my first drug was. So I was looking for alcohol, looking for weed.
At home?
No, I
like
wouldn't cross that line.
Okay.
No, because I both my parents like drink like Irish people drink.
Yeah.
You know.
So
So a lot, but no, not like me.
you
though.
got to teed that up, man.
Not like me. Though,
Drank
dude.
like Irish people? Okay, so they might have had a problem too.
Well, there was a drink with every dinner.
No, 100%. Because
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Like my family can get after it, but I feel
I
like
took it to the next level.
Exactly. Same thing, Eastern European, just like Irish. My family can drink a lot. But when people are like, oh, is your family alcoholic? I'm like, no, dude. Like everyone was able to, like
I'm
they all
first
like,
generation lunatic.
they all like to like party and get after it. And sometimes there's arguments. Sometimes things are set. Like that happens when you drink a lot. But like what I would do is like a whole lot, like doing shots so I could drive my car because I was shaking so bad. That's like a different level.
Oh, wow.
Like that's when people ask me, like, because a lot of times I'm sure you get this too, being sober for a long time. People will be like, "Do you think I drink too much?" And a lot of times I'm like, "Yeah, you probably drink too much, but
Right.
I wouldn't put you in my category."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You wake up in the morning.
Yeah, but sometimes the opposite will happen where never do this to a sober person where they'll go, oh wow, you're sober, that's great. I mean, yeah, if you got to stop, you got to stop. Me, I don't have to stop. Here's why I'm not an alcoholic.
Yeah,
first of all, that's a rude thing to do. That's like going up to a diabetic and being like, oh dude, if I couldn't eat these candy bars, I would hate myself. But also,
I didn't think about it like that. You're right. That is fucked up.
90% of people saying that are alcoholics.
Yeah.
Because you know what alcoholics do? Justify their drinking.
There's a comic that I really like, and I'm going to stop name dropping because I've been told I do that too much. But
Yeah.
a
Kanye West has been telling me that to do that.
A friend of
Oh,
mine-
what a bad example, dude. Yikes.
that's the first name you pulled, really?
First name I pulled.
But he says that people will message him all the time, like, "Do you think?" Like, how did you know you were an alcoholic? Because he's been sober for a long time. And he goes, if you're messaging a stranger that talks about being sober, about your, like, maybe you might be an alcoholic, he goes, you should go to a meeting or check something out.
You know what fucked me up though? As a young adult, there was a moment where I was like, oh, I am an alcoholic.
Moment of clarity, yeah.
I am an alcoholic, and that's cool. Because again, the
Your identity,
Bukowski,
what you
dude,
talked about earlier, the identity
I was
thing.
like, dude, like I'm a fucking guy that just knows what life is.
I know how to get after it.
Dude,
like, I'm
it's
going to make my own fun.
So stupid.
So what was the first drug you ended up finding?
My buddy broke his arm, right? And he was prescribed Vicodin.
Let's go.
And he had a parent that I guess let their 14-year-old son just have the bottle of Vicodin. So he let me have some, and my friends and I were having a sleepover.
Yeah, you
It
were.
must be so terrifying to be a parent, dude, because the last thing my parents were thinking is that their son was popping pills at the sleepover, right? And I didn't even take that much, dude, but I remember feeling like, oh, I feel kind of silly. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, I feel silly. And then
That's the biggest red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to people, and I'm sure you do too, where Like, they don't drink. They just don't drink. And I go, why not? They go, I don't feel in control and I don't like that. And I go,
Yeah.
that's the best part.
It's like I love not being in control.
I love that. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Dude, what is going to happen?
And I'm a control freak. That's why I liked drinking so much, because they got rid of that.
Yeah. Quiets the mind.
Yeah. So you were just like, ooh.
I was like, ooh, this is fun. And it's weird, though, because we're in that stage in adolescence where we could have just been being silly.
Yeah.
But I had this I'm going to do drugs mentality, and it did feel nice. And I remember going to sleep and waking up and itching so bad.
The itchies, yeah.
Which is, I didn't know was a side effect. And, like, the internet was around, but I didn't have, like, ready access to it.
Well, and you also don't have the wherewithal to put it together.
Symptoms. I don't even know how to spell it now.
Well, and especially as a kid, like, you take something and you, like, wake up hours later, you don't realize, like, oh, it's probably from the thing I took.
Yeah.
Because that happens to me all the time. Like, I'll drink coffee on an empty stomach. Like, I'll do a red eye at work, and I will forget that I hadn't eaten all day, and then I'll be like, I'm dizzy, and I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
But I never piece it together. It's because I had 300 milligrams of caffeine on an empty stomach. I'm just like, I wonder what's wrong with me today.
Yeah.
So even as an adult, I do that. So as a kid, there's no way you could have known that's what it was from.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening? Did you, like, freak out?
No.
We're like, there's lice in the bed.
For whatever reason, I was able to, because I had never woken up itchy before, you know. I have since, folks, right? Crabs, nothing to mess around with. But I put two and two together. I was like, oh, this is probably from the drugs I took. And then I was like, well, this is fun then.
Yeah.
Look at me having a drug
A
symptom.
reaction, yeah.
Dude, it's so stupid. I don't know what it was, because I didn't really perform in any great way as a preteen. You know, I did, like, decent in school. Like, I would have teachers be like, well, he's smart.
Yeah.
But not in a way. Like, I was always teetering on being in the gifted class. Like, I'd be in one and then out the next week and all. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not, this is such like a little kid way of thinking, but I was like, all right, I'm not smart. I'm not athletic. God bless me. I'm not athletic, dude. Like, I mean, we both lift weights. I started lifting weights when I realized that you don't have to be coordinated, because you can't fuck this up.
Yeah, 100%.
And you don't have to
There's
see
so
good.
many power lifters where I'm like, oh, you are not an athlete at all.
No, dude. I mean, a power lifter where it's like one of your duties is to eat as much as possible.
I know, dude. It's nuts.
It's like that in sumo wrestling.
But it's also like because I was an athlete my whole life, like playing football and stuff. And then I lift, and I lift heavy because it's an ego thing. But, like, I still lift an incredible amount. But also, like, if I go to the track, I can run around. Like, I can play soccer. I can run. Like, if someone's playing flag football, I'll jump on it. But there's, like, some people I know who lift. Like, they're awesome lifters. And then, like, they'll trip over their feet. And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's me, dude. I have terrible depth perception.
Hand-eye coordination out the window.
I can't see. I'm wearing contacts right now. I have astigmatism. Like, dude, I'm so grateful about living in 2024, because if it was even like 100 years ago, I would have been eaten by wolves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 100 years, that's not long ago enough to have
That
been
could have
eaten by
happened
wolves.
100 years ago.
If I was in the West, right?
Yeah, of
I
course.
would have died on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah,
right?
if you were trying to go out there to get gold, you'd have been fucked.
No.
Dude, we're at the mark. We got to have you back on. We still have Prague, the bizarre questions, Rick and Morty, magic tricks. We got to talk about the last time you drank.
Yes.
We got so much to get into.
Dude, and the Rick and Morty story is about me watching Rick and Morty and something funny happened. I can't have everyone thinking that I love Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay.
I
yeah.
mean, it's a good show, but it's like one of those things where you
like,
don't want to be a
you just wrote
fan
down
of
Rick
it.
and Morty.
Right. I don't want to. Please.
Dude, this was a lot of fun. We'll have you back
so
on
much
in the
fun,
next
dude.
couple of weeks. Plug everything one more time, though. Let them know.
Yeah, man. So I post my dates on Instagram, and I post a new episode of my podcast every Sunday on my Instagram as well. So follow me on Instagram. I don't post any booty pics, no thirst traps. You're going to have to find that somewhere. But my @ is @Bobby Sheehan. It's not Sheeran. I know I look like him, but it's Bobby Sheehan. And Bobby Sheehan was the bass player of Blues Traveler. So what you're going to want to do is Google Blues Traveler find the bass player. His name is Bobby Sheehan. It's the same name as mine, but I'm a different guy. It's at Bobby Sheehan, LOL, because you know I bring the laughter, and I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the one-man show, Ex-Drinking Buddy, a comics look at life, near-death, recovery, and redemption. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Boom.
Dude, that was so fun. Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming on, man.
We were riffing Randy's.
Yeah.